On today's menu, we have a KWA Eve 4. This is my partner's gun, and after the last video I did, where I've obviously bought her a new pistol, I figured it's about time I tackle this thing. Now, I bought this for her, second hand, and I'll be totally honest with you, it was whilst I was young, dumb and full of cum, and I didn't really know what I was doing or what I was looking for. And honestly, I think I kind of got stung with this. She's been using it a little over a year, and if I plug in the battery, you're going to hear that this thing sounds just bad, if I'm being honest. Ugh. Ugh. 7.4 volt battery using 0.2 grams. 326, 325, 324, 325, 325, 325, 325, 315, 325, 324, 316, 319, 324. Started off pretty consistent, but then kind of went a little bit all over the place. Let's try a bit of full auto and see what rate of fire we're getting. 11.4. One more time. 11.1. I also just want to show you, this is the trigger response at the moment. Not great. Yeah, we can definitely do something about that. So, I'm going to take this thing apart, have a look at it, and probably throw in a few upgrades. So let's do it.
Camera's on, but I forgot to press record. Lost a spring somewhere under the floorboard. Don't worry, lads, that's totally fine. It was important. That spring was mine. Strip it down with confidence high. 3 spare screws, no clue why. If it fires once, we should manage. Welcome to Bang Average.
This screw here is completely seized. I wonder if that's been Loctited in. This one was tough, but that one is not budging and it's stripping. I might have to grind in a slot so that I can unscrew this with a flathead. Well, I won't lie to you. That sucked. It's still not coming out easy. Oh my god. There we go. I think it's fair to say that screw is being replaced, because it is mauled. Would you look at this little dick?
Shim it close enough, that'll do. Torque it, not just blag it through. Gas or AG doesn't matter. If it works, we cheer and clatter. Bang Average, loud and proud.
I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but someone has definitely taken this apart before, because that screw in there has been absolutely mangled. Ugh. Right, this means war. There we go. What is wrong with people and just absolutely cranking down on screws? Like, this doesn't need to be that tight. Find another replacement.
So tired.
Hello, love of my life.
Hello.
You okay?
Yeah. You?
Yeah.
Hi.
I am disassembling and trying to fix/upgrade your gun.
Aw. No, take that out.
This is probably a good place to stop, to be fair, because up till now this has been the same as any other standard M4 disassembly, but I think this is where the Eve is going to start becoming different. So I might start tackling this again tomorrow. Okie dokie, it's the next day. Let's get this thing stripped right down.
Tech advice that's mostly sound. Rifles, pistols, shotguns booming. SMGs go zooming. Grenade launchers purely for drama. And no concern from site staff, honestly. Trip it, mod it, test and manage. Professionally Bang Average. Hop up dialed with Scient in fig spin. Left a bit, no right, no spin again. Chrono says we're slightly hot. It must be jewel creep. It was not. Budget build from mystery brand. Questionable wiring in my hand. If smoke appears, we calmly
I knew it. Loctite. No wonder these things are so hard to get out. But with that, there is the gearbox. Okay. Plain sailing from here, I'm sure.
Polish parts to gain 1 FPS. Claim it's night and day progress. From CQB to Muddy Savage. Skill level, enthusiast average. Bum ba da da ba da ba ba da bum ba da da ba da ba ba da bum ba da da ba da ba ba da ba da da. Bang average, never release. Drop my mag in the safe zone seat. M8 Cibidum pump with flare. Why is there green gas in my hair? Tiny scorpion, big attitude, accuracy. It's got character, dude. Trip it, mod it, test and manage. That's bang average airsoft.
Okie dokie. Let's see what kind of monstrosity we're in for in here. Well, I just heard something rattle, which isn't good. I'm going to be honest, that's better looking than I was expecting. I need to take these two little square pieces out, because that's what screws into the case. That's what was Loctited in. Warranty sticker was already ripped. Let's see what we're working with. Let's get the piston out first, and the tappet plate. Try not to launch this. Wow. That is our air compression right there. That is bone dry. Jesus Christ. Look at the O-ring on that. Not a drop of lube on it. Ugh. That ain't doing nothing. Okay. Problem one. You know what I didn't check was the shimming. Not great. It's like sticking out this side. So this one and this one, not enough shimming. This one, over-shimmed apparently. I feel like somebody's tried and has failed. Right, I think my plan initially is I'm going to get all of this out, just clean everything down, see what we're working with, and see if I can't salvage this piston. Because from what I've read, the Eve uses a very particular kind of piston, and it'd be a pain if I have to try and replace this. But that is shocking. I don't think this is the stock spring it came with either. To be fair, the inside of the piston doesn't look too bad. You can obviously see where the rubber is being deposited from the halfway point down, but it doesn't look to be scratched or anything, so that's good. What's interesting is somebody definitely opened this before, but they obviously didn't plan on doing any maintenance to it. So I don't know what the point of it was, but the very fact that they used blue Loctite on a plastic screw joint shows they have no idea what you're doing, because you need heat to release it. And obviously, you apply heat to plastic, and it melts. I don't know if you could tell in my speedy video, but I was having to just dab the heat on, hoping it would release enough. And thankfully it did. The gearing there actually looks okay. I was expecting that to be shredded, but it doesn't look terrible. Healthy dollop on that. I mean, it's better, but still not great. I wonder if I've got a spare O-ring I can put around there. Let's have a look. There we go. Don't have to worry about getting the shims out because there aren't any. So let's just get rid of all this grease. The annoying thing is, the people who sold this to me were a friend of a friend. And I know for a fact that those friends have since had a falling out. For reasons I don't really want to go into on camera. But I will because they're making me fix their gun. Financial problems. And I have the feeling this was probably sold as a bit of an act of desperation. But yeah, honestly, not very nice people. Let's remove the trigger unit first, I think. Oh my god, even the trigger is like stuck. I was half expecting to see this gear being altered or short stroked, something like that. But it doesn't look like it has been, thank God. Jesus Christ, it's caked in grease. I still, as of yet, haven't found a shim. I think the mentality of whoever took this apart last... Could it be? Nope, that's not a shim either. Not a single shim in here. Sorry, it's literally like the person who took this apart, their entire mentality was, more grease equal good. So they absolutely slathered it on all the gears, but nowhere else. And you know what? Yeah, grease on the gears is important. But you know where else grease is important? Anything else that moves. The other problem is if you put too much grease on the gears, that all flings off and goes everywhere else. So thank you, GG, but go home. Also, there's no point applying grease to everything if you're not going to shim things right. Case in point. Look at all that grease there, just doing nothing. Let's get the anti-reversal latch out. Careful not to lose that little spring. At this point, I'm just giving everything a damn good clean. Okay, trigger assembly. Let's get this out of here. Out you come. Let's get rid of that spring. There we go. Fresh slate. Holy shit, you won't believe this, but look what I found while cleaning. A singular shim! Just the one. That is the only shim in this entire gun, and I don't even know where it came from, because it certainly wasn't on any of the gears, and it certainly wasn't on any of the bearings. Like, even the O-ring for the nozzle is bone dry. God's sake, man. This is like basic shit. It's an airsoft gun. Do you think it might be important if air doesn't leak? Now, if you've never taken apart an M4 before, you might think that this is probably a fairly standard process, and I can tell you, it is not. This is an unusual gearbox due to the fact it's got this piece that runs along the top of it, and also the housing for the trigger unit is an odd shape. There's a few things I want to do to this. I would like to put an ETU in here. I would obviously like to re-shim it, and just general maintenance, which obviously you've seen, some of which I've already done. So the shimming, the cleaning, and the re-greasing, easy. The ETU I want to put in is a Perun Hybrid Pro. And normally that is a plug and play, effectively. You plonk it in and you're good to go. However, from what I've read and researched, these housings, like I say, are not standard. And so there's maybe a little trickier than I anticipated. From what I gather, whilst it might not necessarily be easy to install a Perun in these, I don't think it's necessarily difficult either. But that's going to be first job, trying to get the Perun unit in there. Credit where credit's due. Can't argue with that. I'm sure if Luke saw what I was planning on doing with this, he would be turning in his proverbial. So like I say, this is the Perun V2 Hybrid Pro. And inside we got the trigger unit piece. We've also got the actual board itself. And there are some instructions in there. Oh, you've also got the sticker pack and the installation instructions too. Kind of important, don't lose that. I've put these in some of my own airsoft guns, and to put it mildly, these things are great. And like I say, installation has never been a problem. Until now. Now interestingly, according to what I've read, this metal post here interferes with the sensor. So for those who don't know how this works, this gets secured in place in there, and then it picks up the movement of this gear as it spins. Now, like I just said, this metal bar apparently gets in the way, although to be fair, looking at this, doesn't look like it necessarily does, so I might try it without first, because if I can get away without having to modify this, that would be great. That is just held in place by a single screw there. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose. Let's pop our gear in, and then with nothing else connected at all, I'm just going to plug in the battery and see if it can read it. So I'm looking at this little light up here. We'll see if it recognises the gear spinning. And that looks like a resounding no. I'm just putting a bit of electrical tape down to cover the bearings. Because if there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's moving parts in airsoft guns do not like dirt. So let's just cover those up before I grind this stalk out here. Be right back. There we go. You see, obviously that post is now gone. You can also see the amount of metal dust I made. So I'm going to go and wash this off, and yeah, we'll see if we can get this thing working. Okay, we're back. Take two, let's see if this will work now. What I also did off camera, I don't know if you can tell, but the hole here, the little circular one, can you see how it's a little bit kind of teardrop shaped now? I just took a round file and just slightly elongated that, because that allows me to then push this over very slightly. Again, hopefully giving the sensor as much chance as possible to pick up that gear. So, let's give it a try. Now what we're hopefully looking for is where this flashing light is, it should turn green when it's span. Hey, would you look at that? You see how it fluctuates between on and off? That's good. Nice. Okay, job 1 done. Now the next problem we're going to have is the wiring needs to avoid both this hole here, because that's where our body pin goes through, and obviously this hole here, which is where our trigger goes through. Now I'm actually going to put in an upgraded trigger on this as well, because I can, and the trigger I'm putting in already has one of these installed. But just for reference, if you're wanting to put this one on here, it's these 2 tiny screws, that then comes in half, you pop the trigger through, and then this screw up here tightens this to prevent any wobble, if that makes sense. But what I will say is be very, very careful tightening these screws, because this is very soft material and would very easily thread them. So don't do what the previous owner of this gun did and crank down on your screws. Stupid. You see the trigger there with the part for the Perun? That's what I'm after, because it's just a nicer trigger all round as well. So we'll make use of that. Okay, I've got the wiring run. I had to refresh my memory. I remember it's the small, thin red wire, which you now can't see first. This little one here. That goes through first. Then you take the one that's furthest away. That runs through second, and that comes all the way through and out the back. Then you take the second grey one. That one runs through and down. And then the green one comes back in, down, round, and out. And I'm just going to poke all these down carefully, making sure not to damage them. And again, making sure that that little hole there is clear of wires so that when the body pin goes through, it doesn't damage them. Right, let's put our max trigger in. So I need to move the manual safety up slightly. This part here needs to sit behind this post. Sorry, it's a little bit fiddly to film this. There we go. That's dropped in the hole there. Now I might have to trim down the manual safety. Ooh, although that looks actually kind of perfect. Right, what I'm going to do next, I'm once again going to take the battery, plug it in, and we're going to check to make sure it registers both the trigger and the sector gear still. So, yellow flashing light, standby. Green, recognizing the gear spinning, good. And then it should turn purple if it recognizes the trigger pull. Beautiful. We seem to be good to go. Okay, I think that is the Perun unit installed. Everything seems to be working as it should. The last bit I need to do with it is with the selector plate. Unlike with the old trigger unit and a bunch of various little pieces, this created a mechanical change. So the gun knew what firing mode or safety it was in based on a physical or a mechanical bunch of mechanisms, and that would allow it to know which gear it was in. Whereas with the Perun, you can see here it's got a bunch of sensors. What I need to do is take one of these stickers, stick it on the back of the selector plate, and then as this moves left and right, it will activate each of these sensors so it knows which firing mode it's in. Now handily, on the KWA, up here, can you see there are different markers? So that marker is safe. If it's in the middle, that is semi-automatic. And if it's at the end, it's automatic. And I now just need to figure out the correct sticker placement so that each time this moves to the correct location, it triggers the right mode. What you can also see is if I put it into safe, it flicks this little switch here, which on the other side activates that arm, which is what gives the trigger its mechanical safety feature. See, that's now in safe. And then fire. Back to, oh, I'll just knock that out. You get the idea. You don't actually need this for the gun to function. You can get rid of this piece if you wanted to. It is realistically just something else to go wrong. And you don't need a mechanical safety with the Perun unit. However, I'm going to keep it in, just kind of because it's the first time I have. And I'm sort of curious to see how well it works. But realistically, you can take this part out. It's not necessary. Right, let's try and figure out this sticker placement then. Oh, I've just remembered something else I need to do as well. Where this moves back and forth, and where there's obviously a sticker on this side, the sticker can rub on each of these edges here. These are actually quite sharp, and same on this side. I normally file these down slightly just to put a slight bevel on them so that they don't catch the sticker, but I don't want to do that while the board is in place, because again, aluminium dust and electrics, bad combination. So let me very quickly take the Perun back out and bevel those edges, and then we'll carry on where we left off. Now I know this doesn't look the tidiest, but you can see this edge here has now been beveled, as have these two over here. This scratching part looks like I've slipped, but actually I noticed that where these holes were, you can see around the edges, there was actually some high spots, and I just don't want anything scratching the sticker, so I've just filed that flat. That's now nice and smooth. I'm really sorry guys, I realised my camera wasn't recording when I put the sticker on. But yeah, in a nutshell, you take one of these stickers, it took me 2 attempts to get the placement right, and what you would normally do, where's the scrap one? Have I just thrown it away? Here it is. So normally on an M4, this part would sit flush up against this edge. In fact, let me show you. So on a normal selector plate, you can see here that the sticker sits flush, pretty much, with this square piece sticking out. Because the KWA is just awkward, I had to sit this one in slightly. And then what was happening is obviously with this, the corner was sticking out over the edge. So I've just cut that away with a scalpel, and I'm left with this shape here. And this seems to, I think, be in the right placement. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to reinstall this back in here. I'm going to put the trigger assembly back in, just the trigger for now. I'm going to reattach the other side. And I'm just going to hold this in place with a couple of screws, just to keep the case roughly together. And I'm going to reinstall that back in here, just so I can check that the selector works in the right place. Can you see at the moment we've got the flashing yellow light and we are in safe. So now I'm going to flick it to semi-fire, which should turn blue, like so. And now I'm going to flick it over to full auto, which should turn red, like so. And then if I go back the other way, blue semi, and then white should be safe. Beautiful. Okay, so because this video is already getting crazy long, I've already figured out my shimming for my gears. They're good to go. So now I'm going to show you the correct amount of grease to put in an airsoft gun, because apparently this isn't common knowledge. What I can tell you is it doesn't need much. I'm going to give each of these areas just a light brush, and that's going to be all it needs. So it really doesn't take very much at all. Put a little bit in there where the spring's going to go for the tappet plate. Same thing on the other side. Okay, time to reassemble this thing.
So where's that spring?
No idea.
Did we chrono?
Oh no, dear.
Is it safe?
Mostly yes.
Send it.
Careful there.
Blue, black, white, clean aesthetic. Competence, debatable at best. Evened up, pathetic. Bang average, shout it proud. Middle of the pack, but twice as loud. From box fresh to why is it rattling? Confidence absolutely baffling. Laugh it off and still we manage. Kings of chaos, bang average.
Now obviously I've got the stock KWA high torque motor, which I'm pretty sure is a brushed one. I do also have a Solink 31,000 RPM brushless motor. Now this would obviously kind of make more sense. However, I'm a little bit worried about the internals of this not being able to cope with the power of both the MOSFET and a new motor. So I might try with the KWA one to begin with. We'll give it a test. If I like it, great. If not, I'll upgrade it. Come on, you bugger, out you come. Well, I won't lie, I swapped over to the Solink motor purely because the KWA one pissed me off. I couldn't get it to go through the hole, so I did what all best techs do and gave up. So yeah, we're going to try this out instead. See how well it works. I'm not happy with these cables, I need to sort these out. Yep, I looked back over the footage and both of the wires run down the front of the motor, not one front and back, which is normal. Otherwise, this asymmetrical cap doesn't fit on. This gun is just like designed to irritate, honestly. But let's get this wired up and hopefully working now. I just fucking noticed the screw I was about to put in has got Loctite on. Hell no. That wasn't me, by the way, that was a pre-Loctited screw. But do you know what? Maybe I've got to eat some humble pie. Maybe it wasn't them after all. Maybe they did the same as me. It's not exactly the same, but it'll do. There we go. Right. Power on. Let's see. That motor mount, not good. Okay, that took longer than I care to admit. I will hand on heart say this is the trickiest airsoft gun I have ever had to work on. It turned out all the shims I'd put in, well, apparently this thing doesn't like shims. Even though there is wobble in the gears still, and with the shims there wasn't, for some reason, when it's cranked down, it made that horrible, horrible noise. So all I did was I removed all of the shims, I reassembled the gun, then I forgot to put in those two little square pieces, so I couldn't fucking reassemble it, so I had to disassemble it all again, and then reassemble it all again, but finally, we are, I think, working. I'm going to finish reassembling this, and then I'm going to play with the feet per second with the quick adjust. Oh no. Have I spoken too soon? Are you kidding me? You saw that. What the hell's happened now? Don't know why, but the piston has gotten stuck back, and it is jammed. I'm assuming it's something to do with the tappet plate, but we'll open it up and have another look at it. Oh, it's jammed, whatever it is. Hell. Jesus Christ, it's proper jammed. You look at that and tell me what's wrong with this picture. Because I haven't got a clue. I'm assuming it was the tappet plate, but I genuinely have no idea. Oh, hello. We have lost a tooth. Interesting. Should just be like short stroking it, surely. I don't see why it wouldn't. I think, however, maybe this motor is just too powerful for it. Might have to swap back to the other one. That would be my guess. I'll be totally honest, that one's probably on me. I figured, so long as this thing was running on 7.4, that motor wouldn't overpower the rest of the gun. But clearly, I was mistaken. Right, KWA motor is back in. So, we're going to leave it at that because I'm really tired, I need to feed and walk the dog and eat. So, I'll finish reassembling this after that. Okay, there we go. I have stripped down a lot of M4s, but none of them have been as stubborn or as awkward as that. Let's put the stock back in and make sure it still works, which at this point, I reckon it's probably 50-50. And then we'll go from there. Way more trigger response though, which is nice. Shooting right around the 300 mark. Let's try some full auto again. So considering we are still on 7.4 volt, remember the trigger response before? Let me remind you. Here it is now. Almost instant. And I think we can probably put a bit of pre-cocking on this as well. Alright, let's mess around with pre-cocking then. So we're into programming mode. Remind myself on these instructions. So we're currently in firing mode, don't need that. Burst count, we don't need that. Active braking, I'll have to double check in a minute whether this motor will take it. Pre-cocking, next one. So we're pre-cocking level 1. Pre-cocking level 2. 3, 4, 5. Let's try 6. Select to hold it down, and we'll give it a try. Oh, that's nice. Check this out. That's 7.4 volt. Very nice. Let's see if we can make it go up to 8. Active brake, pre-cocking. That should be 7. That should be 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Select. And let's see what happens now. Oh, that might be the sweet spot. Oof. It's faster than full auto. Nice. That is what we wanted this Perun for. Okay, go. Well, I'm going to leave the video here. As you can see, it's now working exactly as we want. Fast trigger response, super speedy, beautiful. If you like the video, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, all the normal YouTube blah blah blah, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.